wanted the best, you got him for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show under the world of outlaws.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome tonight to the Online Sim Racing Network as we lay the pedals down with the PRL. Tonight is the JC Accounting and Payroll. That's the JC Accounting and Payroll. This is round 7 of 13, season 9, Precision Racing League AMS Oil American Iracing Sunday series, brought to you by AMSOIL, specializing in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics. Check them out at amsoil.com. I'm a commentator, Sean Zulu, and we have some special guests tonight in the booth with us, Chris Perez and Joni Pierce. You guys got a copy? You there, Chris and John?
Yes, sir.
Well, tonight's going to be an amazing race. And how are you guys doing, by the way?
Oh, man, I'm just so excited to be here tonight, Sean. We got, this is classic stock car track racing, man. This is just not enough of the tracks that we see like this. They're shorter. This track's just a little bit longer than Bristol and Martinsville. They're going to be running the high line tonight from what the drivers were telling me, and I'm just stoked and ready to get this thing underway.
Oh, indeed, man. I'm feeling the exact same way. And it's great to have you back, John. It's been way too long. The racing has not been the same without you. Seems like the competition went down on the track there without you, but it's great to have you back. And how are you, Chris? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Getting ready to see what these guys can do on this small little track we got here. It's going to be hard to get around people, especially when it's mostly one line racing right up against that wall. Conserving tires and staying out of it's going to be, you know, very, very key.
Absolutely, man. And also we have the one and only David Everly, our producer. You see there? You got a cup there, Dave? You might be AFK there. Well, let's take a recap from last week's race before we go into tonight's race. And that was at Kansas Speedway, round number 6. And in that race, we had Richard Regan bring it home for his first win of the season, and he has himself locked into the chase via win. So congrats to Richard Regan Jr. Kevin Whitaker came out 2nd, James O'Brien 3rd, Paul D. Johnson 4th, Seth Silverio 5th, Stephen Aguiar 6th, Craig Hawkins 7th, Kyle Souza 8th, Carlton Lane 9th, and Joshua Witherspoon did round up the top 10 in that race. And now moving on to our current points standings, Kevin Whitaker is still leading in points, James O'Brien 2nd, Richard Regan Jr. 3rd, Craig Hawkins 4th, Stephen Aguiar 5th, Seth Silverio 6th, Kyle Souza 7th, Christian Swenson 8th, Joshua Witherspoon 9th, and Michael Knight rounding up the top 10 in the points standings. But going to tonight's race, ladies and gentlemen, at Lucas Oil Raceway. Well, Johnny, what are we dealing with tonight?
Well, Sean, I was looking at the temp of this track. We're looking at an overcast condition where it's a little cloudy. Cloudy means tight cars. It means we're going to have a lot of grip tonight. Guys are going to be fighting a tight condition. Track's a little bit warm. You know, I like a track up around 90 degrees. I like a slick track, but we're going to see a high grip track today. So these, you know, the reason drivers always talk about liking to see a slicker track, a hotter track, it kind of spreads the cars out. It just makes it harder to manage that car. When you got a track like tonight, it's going to give us a lot of grip. You're going to see a lot of competitive racing and a lot of bang fenders tonight.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, that's going to also come with a lot of tire conservation in order for these drivers to be able to be successful at the same time, keeping in mind that they do run open setups, and as teams, they were able to get together throughout the week and practice and pretty much tweak the setups as the week went on. But the good thing about running open setups too there, Johnny, is that you can pretty much tweak the setup as you go throughout the race.
Absolutely, and you can bet this track's going to get just tighter and tighter as they go along. I was talking to one of the drivers earlier, Josh Buckman, I believe it was. Yes, Josh Buckman. He was telling me that they can do about 80 laps on the set of tires. He said after 80 laps, you're really looking for a new set of tires. He said the fuel window's about 100 laps, but I doubt that we're going to see a lot of pit strategy come into play, because I think we're just going to see it's going to be an aggressive race. It's short track, high grip. It's going to be on tonight. These guys are going to be running for a broke.
Oh, indeed. I can only imagine. And also, speaking of that, 80 lap on tires, man, I can only imagine how icy sideways these guys will be going. That's going to make things extra interesting, as now the grid seems to be ready. We are now gridding up with our post hitter being the defending champion 9 of James O'Brien with Road Trip Racing. Well, Chris, give us a top 10.
All right, like you said, we got James O'Brien starting first, second straight pole. Start second outside row would be number 15, Christian Swenson. Inside second row is Stephen Aguiar. Sorry about that. Outside of Stephen is the 23 of Craig Hawkins. And then running up the top 5 is last week's winner Richard Regan Jr. Starting 6th is going to be Kevin Whitaker. And starting, what was that? 7th, we got Dale Robertson. 8th is Daniel Smallwood, and 9th will be Paul D. Johnson. Rounding out the top 10 is his teammate Brandon Walter. You want to carry the rest, Johnny?
I'm sorry, I lost you there, Chris. Where did we have at? Who'd you leave off?
I got it, man. It's all good there. We got 97 of Josh Buckman starting 11th, and then 98 of Ian Lane starting 12th. 13th will be the 96 of Jeffrey Ford, and 14th will be Corey M. Smith. 15th and the last qualifying lap will be the 33 of David Dreckman. And the last few starters will be Kyle Souza, Michael McKnight, Joshua Witherspoon, and Colton Lane.
Yeah, but that roughly gives us a 19 car field right here. Lucas Oil Raceway, the JC Accounting and Payroll, round 7 of 13. Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder for those new viewers out there. First of all, welcome to the Online Sim Racing Network. And this is a Precision Racing League AMS Oil American Iracing Sunday series. And going back to what I was talking about, this is a 13-week regular race season followed by a 7-week chase race series as the drivers all go against defending champion, 3-time champion, 9 of James O'Brien with Road Trip Racing. And the competition just gets nothing but stiffer with every, or I should say stronger with every single season. So it's going to become extra difficult. Well, it has been difficult already for James O'Brien. He talked about it in an interview last week as to how difficult it has been as compared to previous seasons that he's raced. And so far here we are now behind the pace car being led by James O'Brien with the help of Stephen Aguiar. 1-5 of Swenson on the outside with the help of 23 of Craig Hawkins. We are going green.
Yeah, this is when you put your game face on. This is when you get whatever you got to do to get it going.
Yeah, we had some deadly wheel spin at Dover, man. I'm just hoping it doesn't happen this time on this start, man. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and that's what you're thinking. You're like, let's just not slip the tires. Let's just get a nice clean start. It's a lot of laps to go, and they're off.
Yep, so far, Luke, seems like no wheel spin by any drivers, but 8 of Stephen Aguiar was caught sleeping, and now is trying to take away the second place spot against 1-5 of Swenson off the exit of turn 2 here. Oh, 4 single file, well scratched that double wide between 23 of Hawkins and 22 of Richard Regan, but back down single file.
O'Brien just keeps on dragging him along up there. I mean, he is definitely hooked up. Looks like the 15's making a run at him.
Yeah, he gets a little loose coming off 2 though right there. And just diming it down in the corner a little too much right there.
Yep, and seems like right there James O'Brien has now increased his lead about 3 to 4 car lengths against second place driver Christian Swenson. And Johnny, you seem to... Oh. Yeah, first caution here, gonna back it up and see what happened. Oh, 8 of us, we are involved in that one.
Well, as we go back here to the replay, the 23 of Craig Hawkins and the 8 of Stephen Aguiar, just little contact. The 8 of Stephen Aguiar, he is going to get the most of that damage there as he's got a heavily damaged front end. Just a little racing there because there isn't much room on this track. That's going to bring out our first caution here of the evening.
Oh, man.
That's unfortunate for him.
Oh, indeed. That's a very rough way to start the evening. And one more thing. No backup cars, ladies and gentlemen. No quick fixes, no backup cars. But the drivers are in luck. This track is not that much about the aerodynamics, but at the same time, if you do end up damaging your front end, too bad. That always does never fail to mess up the rotation of the machine, and the rotation is very important, especially at this track.
Probably have to pull some tape off too to keep that motor a little cooler, because now that the front's compacted some in, you know, the airflow is going to be restricted into the air ducts, into the radiator, so it's going to affect his handling all the way around and the whole race car now. Hopefully he can get back out there.
Oh, indeed. I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, last week, too, we had the exact same situation at Kansas Speedway where one of the drivers had some bad damage on the machine on the front end, and that ended up blowing up the motor in no time under green flag conditions. And unfortunately, the driver had to retire early for the evening. But absolutely, all that damage always does come with some kind of price. And for the caution that come out there, Johnny, I was about to ask you a question, and my question was, you have a lot of experience at these tracks, at short tracks specifically. What's the best approach in order for you to have a long run speed?
Stay alive. Just try to stay alive. That's all you can do on these short tracks. I was just watching the replay of that wreck there. Craig Hawkins, he pushed up the track. He just washed up the track a little bit on exit. Craig's a really clean driver. I've raced with him for a lot of seasons, and I'm really fond of racing with the guy. And Steve's a good guy, too, so I'm sure they'll be buddies after that wreck.
Oh, indeed, and as we speak here, Steven Aguiar currently trying to roll off pit road. Yes, he is. Oh, actually, he's going to his pit stop, but yes, the machine's front end is quite dented as a result of the incident. And a status check on 23 of Craig Hawkins. Craig Hawkins, not so much, just a little bit of a wrinkle on the right side of the hood. At the same time, the right front of the machine, but they still stay in it to win it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Steven's car right now, and I don't see a lot of damage there. You know, with a track like this where aerodynamics is just not a big factor, I think we're going to see Steven back up there towards the front.
And I'm sure it's going to be, working up before too long, because we've noticed all season long, we talked about this as well last week, how Steven always has chosen to ride in the back of the pack early on and show his face later on in the run. So I'm sure he's going to be sticking to that strategy now that things have changed for the worst in his case, because he did start up in the 3rd place spot and is now all the way back in 18th place, right behind the 64 of Michael Knight. And we are now 1 to green, double wide, going green this time around. Well, Chris, take it.
Yeah, pace car's off and James is going. He started on the outside lane. He got a good jump coming out of 4 there. Just left everybody sleeping. About 2-3 car lengths lead coming out of 2 now.
Yeah, he left a battle between Smallwood and Swenson. Oh, Smallwood goes sideways entering turn number 3, but he hangs on to it enough to maintain second place against second place against Swenson.
Yeah, and I think old Richard Reagan Jr. wants to get up there in the mix too. I noticed him; he was putting some moves that last little run we had. He went under Steven Aguiar, and I think that kid's going to have something to show us.
He's fast. He was fast. He showed us last weekend, and you know he was fast, and he's doing the same thing again this weekend.
Yep, indeed, having his first win last week at Kansas, and not stopping there. He tries to go to the inside of his teammate 1-5 Swenson. Swenson goes all the way up high. That'll be side by side, but the power move off the exit of turn number 4, slingshot by Swenson against Junior.
And O'Brien's just up there. He's just pacing this thing. He's looking good. He is right where he wants to be.
Yeah, he did. I'm watching him do a lot of laps in practice, and he ran that line, and he wasn't budging off of it. Just consistent laps.
He has got some damage on that right front quarter panel. I missed that. Did he get up into the wall a little bit?
I think so. I just noticed that too. I don't know. I don't see how I don't.
Yeah, me too. I actually did not see that until you mentioned it. And speaking of the right side damage, last week too, he had the exact same damage at Kansas, but surprisingly, that did not stop him whatsoever. And now having a 9/10 of a second lead against second place driver Smallwood.
You know, James, he probably didn't like the way the front end of that car was feeling. He probably just hit the wall up there to adjust the toe a little bit.
Oh, we got caution too. Looked like the 33 of Dreckman.
Well, as we go back to the replay here, see if we can see exactly what happened here. Looks like Dreckman was blocking out a little bit. Not sure. I'm not exactly seeing what happened to him.
Ooh, it looked like he looks like he clipped the apron right there. He just got too low in the corner and it went around on him.
Like he got in that corner a little hot. Yeah, he smoked the left front tire there, and he just got the tires a little hot and got out of shape.
Well, at least he didn't get no damage out of this. It's a good thing for him. It's rough seeing him, constantly have problems, but at least this one's not going to cost him damage. So
Yeah, David Dragman was one of my former teammates. Really good guy, man. He loves racing. He's just very passionate. One of the cleanest guys out there on the track, and he deserves a lot of respect. And that's just not like him to self-spin like that.
And as we speak, everybody goes down pit road except for one driver. And that's our new race leader, 98 of Ian Lane, leading his first lap this time around.
Looking at the pit stops, it looks like Joshua Witherspoon kind of made a mistake and missed his pit stop. And it's not going to hurt him much because he's gonna, because of the short track configuration, but it might be a blessing for him to get back in the back of the pack, though.
Yeah, looking at it right now, instead of pitting in, he decides to go around one more time. But I do believe at this point, pit lane is closed. So he will end up getting penalized if he does pit in. But like you said, it's not going to affect him whatsoever because he's going to be in the back anyways if he goes down pit road. And he's now the new race leader on lap 18.
Showing Corey M. Smith with an 8-second pit stop. Looks like he chose to only take 2 tires.
I think that's a bold move there, 2 tires. It's going to be hard to handle these cars as is in a pack.
Yeah, I can tell you as a driver, with my experience on this current tire model, I never would take 2 tires. It's either 4 or none would always be my decision. The cars were just way too unpredictable on 2 tires.
If and as we speak, as suspected, Witherspoon did go down pit road. And now we'll have no choice but to start in the back of the pack. And we have some bad news where the driver lose connection, and that was 60 off Colton Lane. Is now being shown 11 laps down. He is back and will be trying to get most of those laps back before the race ends, and we are now almost 1 to green coming up this time around, still being led by James O'Brien. And yes, lights on pace car do turn off, and Brian, the leader, starting on the outside line. He has lane choice with the help of 3 of Dale Robertson. Inside lane being led by 88 of Smallwood with the help of 22 of Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, you were talking about Colton Lane there, that he dropped out of the race. One thing that people don't think about with sim racing, they think, well, it's just a video game, but they don't understand how much time and effort drivers put into their computers to keep them running up to snuff, to keep them. Your computer's got to be running very efficient to be able to make one of these races. Your internet, your routers, your hardware, your graphics cards.
Absolutely, and we are now green flag racing, and going back to your point, yep, so much work goes into getting everything the way they, basically a lot of background stuff goes on that nobody knows about. At the same time, on top of that, they have to practice, they have to make these amazing paint jobs. So it's very commendable when we see these drivers racing. As we spoke right there, Robertson gets around 22 of Richard Regan Jr. and takes back 3rd place spot. And Regan Jr. now trying to play catch-up with his teammate right behind, 5 of Whitaker.
I'm really curious to see how this battle for 2nd and 3rd goes between Smallwood and Robertson. They're both aggressive drivers, being on the track with them many times. These guys are fast, but man, they're pretty aggressive too, so this could be interesting.
Looks like these top 4 drivers, they're just trying to settle in now and just try to put some laps behind them. Keep your race car in one piece. Oh, got a little wheel shake there from the number 3.
His eyeballs got real big right there. Good save on his part. Shows you the talent of this driver.
Yeah, Dale, I believe Dale's either 16 or 17 years old. He resides in Canada. He is such a great kid. I just have a personal love for this kid. I got to work with him a little bit.
Oh, the caution flies here on lap 25. Gonna see what happened. Oh no, the 1-4 Big D's own Paul D. Johnson spun around. Gonna back it up and see what happened.
Well, as we go back to the instant replay here, looks like he just got back into that gas a little too early coming out of turn 2 there, and he just went around. I think that was turn 2, but that was a single vehicle spin. Yeah, he just got back into that gas a little too soon. That back end stepped out, but he was able to keep it off the wall. Everybody was able to get around him. No damage to the 14 Ford Mustang road trip machine right there.
Yeah, and I just heard Paul. He just immediately jumped on the radio and apologized to the guys for doing that. Paul is definitely one of the top in class here when it comes to being with a guy that you want to race with.
And funny enough there, Johnny, I just noticed that Paul Johnson as well has similar damage on the exact same spot as his teammate, James O'Brien, so maybe you might have something going there.
Yeah, they figured their crew chief made a problem on the toe adjustment, so they're just lining that front end out a little bit.
Yeah, I like that one. We'll go with that one.
It was always my excuse.
And we had some drivers on pit road. Less than half were on pit road, but some did stay out, namely the top 8 drivers: James O'Brien, Daniel Smallwood, Dale Robertson, Richard Regan Jr., Kevin Whitaker, Brandon Walter, Kyle Souza, and Craig Hawkins, 1st through 8th place respectively, all staying out.
Yeah, with the little green flag that they got right there, I don't think them tires are going to matter that much. It may be later in the run, but right now, it's not going to make a difference, I don't feel.
Well, I'll tell you, the racing gods just keep smiling on James O'Brien. He got a 13.7 pit stop, and that is probably one of the fastest ones on the board, and he remains up front. Remains your leader.
Oh, yep, he is. He did have the 2nd fastest pit stop indeed. Congrats to the crew chief of James O'Brien. And the driver who had the fastest pit stop was... Oop, he just went down the list. Actually, scratch that. James did have the fastest pit stop, so congrats to James O'Brien.
Yeah, congrats to that pit team. They obviously wasn't eating ice cream on that stop.
And ladies and gentlemen, a special guest in the chat, Rory Collins. A big shout out to Rory Collins, tonight's race sponsor with the JC Accounting and Payroll, round 7 of 13, season number 9, Precision Racing League AMS Oil American Iracing Sunday series. And check out AMS Oil at amsoil.com. They do specialize in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics.
It's gonna be. We're gonna be restarting with what? I don't know, 149 laps to go now. Still very, very early in this race.
Yeah, but we are now 1 to green this time around with the exact same, well, scratch that. We have a change between Robertson and Regan Jr. They were 4th and 3rd last restart, but that's now flipped around, and now the pace car dips off Regan, adding some friction and some heat to those tires to avoid the deadly wheel spin.
It looks like James is holding back a little bit now, and it looks like no. Now he's going on the flag and checked him up just a little bit on the restart. Allowed the 88 of Smallwood to get an advantage going into turn 1 and 2.
And on that restart right there, James O'Brien did get a lap tap from Richard Regan Jr. And that has dented the rear end of O'Brien a little bit. And now Smallwood side by side, and he pins him up there. And O'Brien has no choice but to let off in the new race leader on lap 32. But a crossover move by O'Brien here against Smallwood. Off, oh, they almost made contact. Oh man, he backs off. We stay green.
There's action further back. The 3 is just all over the place back there. Dale's, man, lost it off the corner too. About the same place O'Brien did.
Speaking of Dale, Dale has some heavy, ugly left front damage on that Camaro, but he is still rolling. But now a threat in the rear end. That's the 5 of Whitaker.
And we got one off in the backstretch.
Taking a look here at the replay, that's going to be the 8 of Stephen Aguiar again here. Let's see if we can go back and see exactly what happened as we focus on the 8. It looks like that no contact made. He just, that back end kicked around coming out of the exit of the turn here. Let's see if we can get another look at it from a different angle here. Yeah, no contact. That back end just comes around. Paul D. Johnson just barely misses. Let's see if we can get on board here with Paul D. Johnson and take a look here. What he was seeing in front of him here is the 8 of Stephen Aguiar. His back end comes around, and Paul D. Johnson, great driving, just barely misses him by inches.
Oh man, yeah, that was unfortunate. And as a result of the incident right there, the 8 of Stephen Aguiar has retired for the evening. Unfortunately, I will look forward to seeing this driver back again next week, round 8. Charlotte Motor Speedway, one of my favorite tracks. That is going to be an amazing race. We had 2 races there last season, and they were both amazing. One was in the regular season, and one was the All-Star race. So we look forward to seeing these drivers at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That is quite the track.
Everybody's going to be gunning for next week. That's a home track of NASCAR pretty much besides Daytona. I mean, as we seen Harvick, you know, last night dominate and win the All-Star race in real life. $1 million. Too bad we can't do that, you know, on this.
Terrible.
Well, I can tell you guys, I've been eavesdropping on the drivers a little bit on the Open Drivers channel, and there's definitely a lot of hostility out there brewing. These guys are getting, they just want to go, man. They just want to run. They just want to finish the race.
Oh, indeed. That's going to come here before too long. You know, the good thing is these drivers, they're getting used to the machines handling with every single lap. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, I know why that could be difficult. Because they're not getting the green flag runs that they want to get. So they can be able to make the necessary adjustments to these machines. And here the new race leader, Smallwood, in the lead. And James O'Brien has now dropped back to the 6th place spot. I just now caught that. Did he pit?
Yeah, he pitted. I think, you know, he wanted to see how much damage he got after the 22 got into him at the beginning of that restart. Just going to put him back then, you know, in the pack, and we'll see how good he is. But as we've seen last week, he managed to overcome the damage he had. So expect to see him back up in the front pretty quick.
And speaking of that, since he pitted in and everybody else behind him did follow him down pit road actually, but this is very interesting. If we do end up going green, it's going to be bad news for the top 2 drivers, Daniel Smallwood and Richard Regan Jr., because at this point they have 19 laps more on their tires compared to James O'Brien and the rest of the field behind him. And as we speak, we are now back 1 to green. Smallwood, the leader, starting on the outside line. Seems like the outside lane is the preferred race groove on starts and restarts. And Smallwood will be assisted by the 14 of Paul D. Johnson. Inside lane being led by Richard Regan with the help of 15 of Christian Swenson. We are going green.
I am impressed and want to see what this 22 car of Richard Regan Jr. is going to do. He is up there. I think he's going to show us a little something.
Yep, and the green flag flies, and yes, he takes over the 2nd place spot away from 14 of Johnson. Chopped his nose off, and Johnson had to lift extra to avoid causing trouble off the exit of turn number 2. He must get clipped by the 15 of Swenson, who had to let off to avoid causing trouble as well. And now single file 1st place through 5th place, James O'Brien in the 5th place spot. 1-0 Corey Smith in the 6th place spot. So O'Brien was able to gain 1 spot.
Ooh, the 3 is loose into 1 and 2, and there he goes around and collects some 2 people. The 33 of David Dreckman, hard in there at the end.
As we go back to the instant replay here, focusing on the 3, got a little left front damage. Looks like he got a little, maybe a little bump there from the 96. Got him a little loose there. Let's see if we can find another view of that. See if there was contact between him and the 96. Yes, a little bump from the 96. Got the 3 of Dale Robertson around. And unfortunately, the 5 got some. Kevin Whitaker got some damage from that. Also, the 33 of David Dreckman, little damage there on the rear end, but real unfortunate for the 3 of Dale Robertson, who was having a really good run here tonight.
Yeah, it don't take much with that 96 car just touching him in the back. These cars already want to spin out. When you're up there, you're going into that turn, they already want to come around on you. And when someone just gives you a little tap like that, that's all it takes, man. And it's just racing. This is short track racing at its finest.
Oh, indeed. And man, yeah, that's a sudden turn of events for Robertson. He had some heavy left front damage as it was, and now he has damage on both sides. So, you know, on the bright side, that kind of seems to balance it out. Just trying to look at the positives here. Not really. But here on pit road, we do have Robertson himself, Kevin Whitaker, Michael Knight, and Ian Lane. But everybody else did stay out. And off pit road, the 3 drivers go, just beating the pace car by a few seconds, trying to avoid going 1 lap down, and we are still being led by Daniel Smallwood, Richard Regan Jr. 2nd, Paul D. Johnson 3rd, Christian Swenson 4th, and James O'Brien rounding up the top 5.
Yeah, if we remember just a little ways back there, Paul was involved in that incident where he lost control of his car, and now he's back up there in the top 3. He's back in the hunt, man. He's ready to do some racing.
Yep, indeed, made one mistake, learned from it, and now he's going against the leaders, Richard Regan Jr. and Daniel Smallwood. And speaking of Paul Johnson, he had a heck of a run last week at Kansas Speedway. So he's most likely, he's hoping for the exact same run, if not better, here tonight. He also finished in the 4th place spot last week and trying to go 3 spots higher this week.
He's looking for that win, his first win of the season, and the win to lock him into the, to the playoffs. And those getting down to the end of the regular season, those wins are very important now.
Paul always shines on these short tracks too. He is the type of guy, the aggressive driver. You just don't quit. He is the guy that's made for short track racing.
And by the way, Johnny, what's his nickname?
Which one?
We always call him Danica. Always in a wreck somewhere.
The Danica is one of them. No, we all love Paul. I tell you, he's one of the guys, man. You could just pick on him, and he just takes it with a smile. He just shows up to race, man. Just give him something to race, and he's good. He's a happy camper.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's a good guy. He is also, not too long ago, him and his wife just had their first kid, and it looks like he's just loving life, just living it up right now.
Definitely. Paul's full-time job, he's an engineer, and that's what, these guys, these aren't just kids at home playing video games. Some guys are young, but I think Paul's about 30 years old, and he's an engineer. He worked for one of our sponsors, I believe, High Torque. And he's a brilliant guy. The fun of this sim racing, these are just not toys, man. This is what we do this.
Absolutely, and as we speak here,
9 of O'Brien gets into the 15 of Swenson, and 10 goes around on his own.
Oh yeah, there's a stopped machine on the track. 10 of Corey Smith, but the caution is not coming out.
What?
Huh?
That is.
Yeah, that is weird. He was stopped on the track for over 30 seconds, letting all the traffic by, and the caution did not come out. And now Smith has no choice but to play catch up and avoid going a lap down at the same time.
Up front, Smallwood, it looked like he got a little hot into the corner, which caused the 22 and the 14 to check up, and they all got together there. This closed up the front group and brought Jeffrey Ford up into the front battle now.
And at the same time, to a new race leader, Richard Regan Jr. So Smallwood bumped down 3 spots from the lead. Oh no, Smallwood taps 14 off Johnson. He goes sideways. He saves it. Wow.
He was just saying hello.
Yep, Rabbing is racing, and great save by Paul D. Johnson. Smallwood backs off. I like how he tapped him and backed off to let him, to give him room to save it. Great sportsmanship, and now he goes to his inside, off turn 2.
That was just a love tap saying, "Hi, Paul. How are you today?"
Look who we find back up front, though. I mean, Brian, he's lurking now.
Yep, and so far here in the top 5, we have 3 different race teams. Gen X Racing with Richard Regan. We have James O'Brien, Paul Johnson Road Trip Racing, and Daniel Smallwood with the Old Schools Motorsports, Kyle Souza Rim Riding Racing. That's 3 different race teams right there, and 1 driver going down pit road as we speak. I do believe that's David Dreckman.
Yeah, he had heavy contact with the 3 when the 3 got turned in the corner back in that last caution. Probably trying to get more of it fixed. Or just...
Oh yeah, most likely, yeah, indeed. Yeah, the front end is beat up, and it goes back to what you guys were talking about there early on. These drivers having to take all the tape off as a result of them trying to avoid hearing that big loud boom from overheating. And as we speak, Dreckman just rolled off pit road, letting all the faster traffic by. He is staying low.
I have sat here and watched. I've tried to comment on this, and I can't even keep up. I just witnessed the 9 car of James O'Brien, the 14 of Paul D. Johnson, the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. All of them have painted the wall, man. They just, I mean, they are just having to fight these cars to keep them off the wall.
As the 22 and the 9 go around a lap car, this brings the battle a little bit closer to between the leaders. Speaking of scraping the wall, the 88 just did it back there too.
And same
cleaning
with
off
Johnson.
the fenders, making it smaller, aerodynamic.
It's funny you mentioned that, because as he clipped the wall, so did Johnson. The exact same lap, the exact same turn, the exact same time right behind him. Oh, Smallwood almost loses it entering turn number 1 as a result of trying to correct the machine, but no harm done. Still green flag racing. He is still rolling behind James O'Brien. And 96 of Jeffrey Ford in the 6th place spot. He has a motor roaring in his rear. That is 99 of Brandon Walter.
Speaking of lap cars, we're currently showing 5 cars off the lead lap. We got Steven Aguilar is 24 laps down, Colton Lane 9 laps down, David Dreckman 3 laps down, Josh Buckman at 1 lap down, and then a lucky dog spot we got Corey M. Smith 1 lap down.
Yep, so Corey M. Smith and Josh Bachman, the only drivers 1 lap down, racing for that lucky dog spot. And as you mentioned, Corey Smith, the driver in line for the lucky dog. And here in the 6th place spot, we have Walter getting around 96 of Jeffrey Ford successfully at the exact same time. He brings the 1-5 of Swenson with him.
And the 15's wheeling under the 96 car. And, yeah, looks like he's going to go ahead and complete that pass.
And just by the way, Johnny and Chris, let's take a few guesses. How many machines are we going to see tonight without a scratch at the end of tonight's race?
You know, Sean, I was just thinking about that. I don't know if I've seen too many cars out there without any damage on them.
Actually, I don't think I've seen a single. Yeah, that's a good point. I've not seen a single one either without any damage. So at the moment, actually scanning Kyle Souza. Kyle Souza has the cleanest machine out there. Yes, he does. Not a single scratch on it in the 5th place spot. Surprisingly.
Kind of surprising, but not from him. He like everybody else in the league, they like to race clean, and he's one of them that stays away from people a lot. A little aggressive. He'll show you the fender, but that's all he will. He won't make the fender hit you.
And speaking of clean drivers, ladies and gentlemen, the PRL is doing something special this season. The Transdo Cup, that's what it's called, the Transdo Cup. That's TRANSDO Cup. And the Transdo is sponsoring, is giving $75 to the driver with the cleanest driving record at the end of the season. But the driver has to complete 16 of the 20 races and complete 75% of every single race. And that's sponsored by Transdo Transport and Logistics. Check them out at transdo.ca. And they specialize in flatbed transport services. That's transdo.ca. That's $75.
Yeah, that's very, very nice of them to come on board and offer that to the cleanest driver. Hard to do it if, you know, we had races like this all season long, but very nice of them.
Yeah, speaking of clean race car, you look at the 22, the guy I've been talking about all night, Richard Reagan Jr. His car don't like it have a scratch on it, but James O'Brien, I believe he made some repairs on his car. His car's looking very good. Oh, and contact between the 9 and the 22. But it doesn't
Johnny, you were saying?
Yeah, I think James was listening to you just speak that and just said, hey, I'm going to go up there and make his car not so pretty anymore.
You know, there's so much action on this track tonight, it's hard to get a complete thought out, because you start talking about a little something and then there's this contact or there's a spin, or these guys are just battling tonight.
Oh, man. Yeah, now Richard Regan now bumps down to second place in between O'Brien and Smallwood. And Smallwood is bringing 1-4 of Johnson with him.
James O'Brien definitely had a dominant season last year. He did win the championship last season here at the PRL, correct?
Correct,
yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, and he's looking for his first win this season. That's kind of unusual for James.
Yeah, funny enough, he talked about that last week in the interview. He's a 3-time PRL champion, going for his 4th win this season. But he did point out how he has he has a lot of spikes, basically ups and downs throughout his PRL career. So those wins are not consecutive. Basically, he has a win this season, but has a bad season the next season. So with him, you never know, but he is still bringing his A game with every single season.
Taking a look at the number 3 car, Dale Robinson. Boy, that thing looks like it's just about ready for the boneyard, but he's still out there driving the wheels off of it.
Yeah, if you bring the steering wheel home or the checkered flag home, nothing in between.
Checkers
He's
and
gonna have
wreckers.
wheels the way he keeps driving it.
I'm gonna have to drag it around the racetrack here soon. And for the back in the pack, 7-9 of Josh Witherspoon goes all the way up high enough for the 1-5 of Christian Swenson. Actually, that's 5 of Whitaker. Yes, scratch that. That's 5 of Whitaker. Whitaker right now taking names, got around both Witherspoon and 98 of Lane at the exact same time. And I just now noticed this, no harm done to both Josh Witherspoon or Ian Lane, because Whitaker is now the first driver 1 lap down. Witherspoon and Lane are still on the lead lap. And some bad news, we have lost the 1-0 of Corey Smith. Oh, action on the track, 96. Oh, spun out sideways, he taps the 5 of Whitaker. The green flag stays out. If we can, let's please back it up on replay, focusing on the 96 of Ford.
Well, as we take a look at the replay, it looks like the 23 of Craig Hawkins looking to his inside, kind of washes up a little bit. Looks like there might have been a little bit of contact there between the 23 and the 96. Let's see if we can get a different angle here and see. Yeah, contact between the 23 of Craig Hawkins on the inside, the 96 of Jeffrey Ford. Heavy damage on that back left, but also another car involved, which I think was the 5. Yes, it was 5. Kevin Whitaker, heavy damage as well.
That's going to be a tough break for Kevin Whitaker. I believe he was coming in tonight with 2 wins under his belt.
Yep, 2 wins, won the first and second race in the PRL. That was a heck of a way for him to start the season. Yeah, but as a result of that, unfortunately, he has been forced to retire for the evening, because that machine did end up blowing up on impact. But hopefully we see him back again next week, coming for his 3rd win, going for his 3rd win at Charlotte.
Yeah, that's just gonna, it just shows that, how important wins are, because it's very easy to get caught up in something. But as we look back up front, O'Brien has a 2.3 second lead over the 22 of Regan Jr. with Paul D. Johnson up in the top 3. And Daniel Smallwood has fallen back to 4th now.
And remember, guys and ladies and gentlemen out there, we talked about this during the last caution. I pointed this out, and that was that James O'Brien had 17 laps less than Richard Regan, and now we're seeing it.
Yeah, I was almost looking. I'm looking at my stats here, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this thing's tracking right, because all of these cars, we have cars that are on 60 laps, we have cars that are on 43 laps, we have cars that are on 21 laps. It's just, and the caution came out.
And under caution, the 96 turns the 9. Oh.
Well, as we go back to the replay, let's focus on the 96 to see exactly what happened. Is the 96 went down under the apron and come back up and got right into the 9 of James O'Brien, who was trying to go high around him. Let's take another look here from another view. Looks like maybe there was the 96 coming out of the turn.
79 got into the 96 as he came out of the corner, and as a result of coming back on the track, he collected the 9.
Well, that is not going to sit well with the 9 of James O'Brien, but unfortunately a small track. It's going to happen.
Well, it wouldn't sit well with me if I was James. I mean, it's one of those incidents where, you got to hold the brake, though.
Yeah, the thing is, your brain as a driver, you just want to keep racing. You want to try to recover that car when you've been taken out like that. And I've been where Jeffrey's at, and I understand what he's going through, but you really have to think about your competitor and try not to come back up on the track like that. And that was real unfortunate for the 9 car.
Yeah, indeed. And most of the time, what I've noticed is that usually when a wreck happens like that, the driver does end up losing control of the machine. And at that point, stuff does go south, but that was still very unfortunate for every single driver involved in the incident. And as we speak, Jeffrey Ford going down pit road right behind 7-9 with a spoon.
Yeah, and like Johnny said, we've all done it. I mean, we've all made the boneheaded mistake, and it sucks when you do it. As a driver, you feel bad. It sucks even worse when you know you took out the leader. And you got to race with it the rest of the race.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Ford, he's a great guy, and I know he'll end up talking to James about that, but you got to really respect your competitors in a situation like that. And again, it's not about passing judgment. We've all done it. We've all, Jeffrey just got taken out by the 79, so you're already mad about that, and you just lose focus on the big picture, and we've all been there.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in the team channel with James right now. You bet they're probably getting an earful.
How about the positive side? James O'Brien here still in 2nd place behind Richard Regan Jr. Here so far is his biggest threat with these laps in, and we are now back to 1 to green, and James O'Brien starting on the outside of Richard Regan Jr. And looks like here Regan Jr. starting on the inside. This is the first time we've seen a leader decide to start on the inside line. And now with the help of Smallwood, I know Paul Johnson, and the pace car dips off. We are going green.
Looks like we got some confusion on this restart.
Yeah, they may delay this thing.
Oh, no, the green flag flies, no delay, but yes, the confusion has ended up spreading out the field, and Regan has a heck of a lead against Paul Johnson, James O'Brien, and Smallwood as well at the same time. But here looks like James O'Brien able to get 2nd place back away from Paul Johnson, his teammate, and now 88 of Smallwood are right behind.
It's going to be
Listening to the chat, it sounds like Paul shut the car off for some reason under caution, and it wouldn't refire. Made a little fuel strategy there, which kind of bit everybody else and hurt, definitely hurt this restart.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, go ahead.
They might be pulling Paul into the PRL race director's room after this race for that.
Speaking of him, man, he got big wiggle off of 4 there.
Yeah, last time he got that wiggly, he was sideways, but this time he's able to save that machine, and now currently behind the 1-5 of Christian Swenson in the 5th place spot. And yeah, speaking of the shutting off of the machine, yeah, drivers like to do that under caution. Myself have done that a couple of times to save gas for fewer strategy. But sometimes, yeah, we do have glitches in the system where the machine does not fire back up. And unfortunately, that had to happen to Paul. That happened to Paul. And that ended up really affecting everything else. But here, as we speak, still green flag racing and Paul Johnson between Christian Swenson and 0 of Kyle Souza.
Well, embarrassingly, I got to say, on that last run, I did not realize Richard Reagan Jr. was on older tires. Well, I'll tell you what, he's getting for those brand new Mr. Feelgoods, and I think he's about to put on a clinic here, fellas.
Oh, yep, his lead is getting closer and closer to 1 second. I mean, to 1 second away against James O'Brien. But James trying to run him down, trying to take back what was rightfully his, which was that race lead. And James driving the wheels off that machine the most that he can.
Now, this is the moment where Paul, after that frustrating restart he just had, he just needs to calm down. You can see how he's just overdriving it in the corner. He gets real close to Swenson, and then he's losing it off of the corner.
Looking at the number 9 of James O'Brien, very little damage on that car. Like I said, short track, aerodynamics doesn't play a role here. So I would say O'Brien's running full speed, keeping his current pace that he started with.
Yeah, but now for the back in the pack, 0 of Kyle Souza catching up, 2:14 of Paul D. Johnson. In turn, Paul, like you pointed out there, Chris, he keeps catching up to Swenson, but every single time he ends up losing that run due to how hard he's driving the machine. A smooth entry leads to an amazing exit, but so far looks like Paul Johnson going in way too hot and suffering on the exit of the turns.
James turns his fastest lap at lap 67. He turned a 20.9, and his last lap was a 21.5, so the damage don't seem to be playing much of a role on the 9 car. So we'll see how this plays out.
And right there, James actually just gained 2/10 of a second against Richard Reagan Jr. And now 0.7 seconds separates the top 2 drivers off turn 4. Reagan Lou gets a little bit sideways, enough for James O'Brien to shave off another 10th.
Yeah, James is definitely reeling him in now. James is about 1/10 of a second faster per lap right now.
Yeah, also keeping in mind that these drivers are equal at this point when it comes to tires. And here, James he is now 0.5 seconds away from Reagan Jr. But keep in mind here, Paul. I just said Paul. Keep in mind here, guys, Chris and Johnny, one thing, catching a driver is one thing, but then getting around him is another.
Absolutely. Got to look at the number 00 of Kyle Souza. He qualified, he failed to qualify for the race, or didn't turn in a qualifying lap. And he's sitting up there at 6th place, so he's looming in on the top 5 for this finish.
Yep, sitting in the 6th place spot with the cleanest machine known to mankind. Here with 97 laps in. And ladies and gentlemen, 97 laps in and 84 laps left. We're going to take our first commercial break of the evening. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned.
Don't let your first date be your last. Visit People Against Distracted Driving at PADD.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the JC Accounting and Payroll. That's the JC Accounting and Payroll live on the Online Sim Racing Network. This is round 7 of 13, season number 9, Precision Racing League AMS Oil American Iracing Sunday series, brought to you by AMS Oil. They specialize in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics. So check them out at amsoil.com. And going back to the race, we are under caution, and we had 2 drivers involved. That was the 88 of Daniel Smallwood and the 15 of Christian Swenson. But here we are now back 1 to green, being led by Richard Regan Jr. with the help of 15 Swenson. Outside lane being led by pretty much the road trip racing team, James O'Brien and Paul Johnson. Pace car dips off.
And got Regan starting again on the inside. He must like that inside line. He's going.
Oh boy, he wasted no time getting back to that loud pedal. That boy gone.
He didn't.
Yep, and his teammates saw it in time to get around second place driver James O'Brien, well, now third place driver. So at this point we have 2 Gen X racing drivers, Regan Jr. and Swenson, versus road trip racing drivers James O'Brien and Paul Johnson, versus a rim riding racing driver Kyle Souza in the 5th place spot. And as we speak, we have Kyle Souza being trailed by 99 of Walter with road trip racing.
And on that restart, after looking back at it, it looks like the 23 had an unfortunate incident where the 96 came up and just gave him no place to go.
Shout out to John Marini saying hello to everyone on our chat. I tell you guys, I've been sim racing for 20 years. Those of you who are watching right now, you guys got some questions, you want to get involved in sim racing, just throw them across the chat there, and I'd be happy to answer for them.
And speaking of the chat, see Rory's still there, and thanks to Roy and everything he does, and you know, for all your payroll and accounting needs, contact JC Accounting.
Oh, not an incident on the track here. 1-4 of Paul Johnson involved, spun around sideways off the exit of 4.
As we look at the replay, I think it might also involve the 88 machine. Yes, gives him a little tap air in the left quarter panel. Paul down to the inside. Doesn't look like he hit too hard. He got it slowed down, but that is going to bring out our 8th caution of the night. But that's to be expected at Lucas Raceway here. I mean, short track. If you ain't bumping, you ain't racing.
Well, I think looking at it, I think Paul in the 14 there probably expected the 88 and Daniel Smallwood to go a little lower, and I think maybe Daniel expected Paul to be up a little higher. So that's just the quintessential race contact there.
Oh, yep, one going low, one going high. They meet in the middle. And unfortunately, Paul getting the worst end of that deal. And as we speak, he's going down pit road this time around to get some of the optional or damage fixed on that machine. And looking at the viewers there in the chat, yeah, Rory is still in the chat. So Rory Collins, thank you once again for the sponsorship here tonight. We have Doug Hagen back in the chat. Welcome back, Doug. Let's go, Swenson. And Doug is one of the crew chiefs of the Gen X racing team. He does help with the setups and brings these machines to life. So thanks very much there, Doug. We also have John Marine, like talked about. Welcome back, John. It's been a while. It's been like 2 weeks. It's been long enough. Good to see you there, John.
Well, I tell you, I've been in that situation that Paul and David were just, or Daniel, I'm sorry, were just in. And I guarantee after they get over it and get get their heads cleared, they're going to both be thinking, man, I should have gave a little more room up higher. Man, I should have gave a little room down low. It's just unfortunate for both cars to end up in that.
Yep, and right now a status check on Daniel Smallwood. Daniel Smallwood currently in 7th place, behind the 3 of Dale Robertson, and 14 of Paul Johnson in the 13th place spot, behind the 96 of Jeffrey Ford. And looking at another driver here, the 3 of Robertson. Robertson here still rolling in that machine despite it seeing better days. It is representing the AMSOIL, the first in synthetics, very well dressed, and he is still rolling and doing some damage as a result. And by that I mean damage in terms of competition. Don't take it the wrong way. And up front here, Richard Regan Jr. still in the race lead. 2nd place driver Christian Swenson. James O'Brien 3rd. Kyle Souza 4th. Brandon Walter 5th. Dale Robertson 6th. Daniel Smallwood 7th. Ian Lane 8th. Craig Hawkins 9th. And Michael Knight in the 10th place spot. And speaking of Michael Knight has always keeps a low profile, but he's been doing amazing in the points. He was 10th place in points starting tonight's race and looking to advance that spot.
Yeah, unfortunately, we currently have 6 drivers off the lead lap. You're looking at David Dreckman, it's a lap down. Colton Lane, 10 laps. Kevin Whitaker, 42 laps. That's very unfortunate with him coming off the wins he's had. Corey M. Smith's 51 laps down, Josh Buckman at 57 laps down, and Stephen Aguiar is out of the race and in last place at 80 laps down.
And we are now back 1 to green this time around with 2 Gen X drivers leading the first and second place. That's Regan Jr. and Swenson. And James O'Brien on the inside. Outside lane is Kyle Souza, but the green flag flies well. Scratched at a jump by Richard Regan Jr. against his teammate and the 9 of James O'Brien. Swenson goes high. O'Brien to the inside, side by side. And for the back in the pack, 99 of Brandon Walter here, watching a battle between 88 of Smallwood and 3 of Robertson. 88 of Smallwood goes to the inside of Robertson, and side by side they'll stay between 3 and 4.
Talking about Gen X Racing, it's important to point out Gen X Racing, they're the team that's leading this thing. They come in tonight with, they had 5 wins and they've got 13 top 5s. Second place would be the second team of Gen X2, followed by Road Trip Racing and GRG in the 4th, and rounding out the top 5 team position, Rim Riding Racing.
Indeed, I'm glad you pointed that out. Ladies and gentlemen, they do have a team championships here with the PRL, and last season, Season 8, team champions were the Road Trip Racing team. And yep, this season so far, Gen X leading. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how things play out. The season is still quite young. This is round 7 of 13. A few more races left before the race begins.
Yeah, Road Trip Racing, they just had an amazing season, or their last season. But this season, they seem to be struggling, man. They're sitting with no wins and only 4 top 5s this season. So those guys, they're smart guys. They'll gather that team up. I think they'll definitely be more competitive as we get closer to the chase.
Yeah, but speaking of the chase, you know, the racing in teams does not come as easy as it might sound or as easy as it might look, because the goal of the teams is for every team member to be successful. Therefore, they're trying their best to get every single team member in the chase. But with so much competition going on, so many different amazing teams out there, very strong teams, it makes it difficult.
Absolutely. Everybody loves their team when you're on top, but when you're not on top and you're struggling, that's when you start having a lot of miscommunications with the team, and it's rough, but I can tell you, there's no way you can go out here and run these races and be competitive without having a team behind you.
Oh man, we had some trouble on the track. We had some contacts between 14 of Paul Johnson and 23 of Craig Hawkins. Oh man, that spun both drivers sideways, giving us the caution as we try and get it back on replay here shortly.
Well, as we take a look at the replay, it was just hard side by side. And coming into the turn, it just looked like Craig Hawkins might have slowed up a little bit more than Paul was anticipating. Gave him a little bit of bump, but Paul was hard on the brakes trying to slow down. Both cars spinning sideways, but unfortunately it doesn't look like too much more damage to those machines.
Yep, they were able to minimize the damage the best that they could. And those machines live to fight for the rest of the race. So nice save by both drivers. And now as we speak, everybody down pit road. Richard Regan able to maintain his lead off pit road. Right behind him is Christian Swenson. James O'Brien third. Daniel Smallwood fourth. And scratch that, Kyle Souza in the 5th place spot. Robertson has lost a bunch of spots on pit road, seems like. Actually, just lost 3 spots. He has to James O'Brien, Smallwood, and Paul Johnson. And in the chat, we do have Gen X Racing himself. Yep, some banged up cars in this race indeed. Yeah, this track has claimed quite a few drivers here this far. It's good to see there again at Gen X Racing. We have Corey Smith back in the chat. Welcome back, Corey Smith. It was sad to see our race end that way. But it was great seeing you racing, trying your best. We look forward to seeing you back again next week at Charlotte.
You know, John Marine was pointing out here on chat that this is one of the few tracks that they have an inside road course here, and they actually don't utilize the outside of the track for the road racing. That's kind of unusual.
Yeah, I'm actually not even I'm not too familiar about this track, but that is very interesting.
Yeah, it's such a small track. It doesn't look like there's much room inside of there, but he says the road course doesn't use the outside oval.
Be a very short road course.
That's what I'm thinking.
about the only kind of road course I belong on.
Well, yeah, the rally championships. This is one of the free tracks on the, or not, well, I don't know if it's free, but it's one of the tracks that they run in the dirt rally here on iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only toyed around with the dirt racing, but I'll tell you what, those rally cars are a blast, man.
And a new viewer in the chat, a returning viewer. That is Michelle McMaster Eisenhower. Welcome back, Michelle. It's good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. And the pace car is off, and Regan finds the pedal immediately, and his teammate tucks in right behind him in 2nd place. Oh, 88 of Smallwood stops the wall off the exit of turn number 4. And so far, still going at it. He goes sideways here beside 9 of O'Brien. That is frightening.
Yeah, the closer we get to the end, the more the tempers are going to flare, the less give and take, the harder they're going to drive.
And at this point, yeah, the drivers have really adapted quite well with the track state. At the same time, the machines changing handling with every single lap. So now they know how much they can push.
Still got the 14 of Paul Johnson. He's up there flirting with top 5. He did just get passed by the, I'll see here, the 99 car.
Yep, his teammate gets around him, and now Walter, his teammate, going against the 0 of Kyle Souza with the Rim Riding Racing team, and Souza still rocking the cleanest machine, one of the cleanest machines out there, with a little bit of right side damage to show for it this time around with 129 laps in. But he had one of the cleanest machines for the longest time here in tonight's race. He goes way wide. 64 of Knight stays low on the inside, and now 2 laps down.
Ooh, a little 3 wide racing. I don't know if them boys are ready for that car to come off pit road like that.
Yeah, that was great awareness by the drivers, avoiding an incident and some sideways action off the exit of turn 4 by James O'Brien. And same with 88 of Smallwood. Everybody right now is driving with the machines.
Walter goes around, unfortunately. He was doing so good there.
Well, as we take a look at the replay, that back end just kicked around on him as he come out through the turn there. But he was able to get it stopped on the track. Everybody was able to get around him there. He is going to have some flat spots on them tires, but good job by the 99 of Brandon Walter keeping it off the wall and everybody else getting around him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He was, well, I talked to him a little bit during practice, and he was very, he didn't like this track. This is not one of his favorite tracks.
You know, as crew chiefs, we set these cars up. We generally put the weight to the back of the car. We don't get as much weight on that back end as possible. And it's just, there's such a fine line between being loose and just being too loose. And it's just what you're going to find on short tracks.
Yeah, that was very, very unfortunate indeed. Going in too hot, and that's the second driver we've seen lose control that way. Early on, we had a driver, I forget the name of that driver. I believe that was David Dreckman, who as well went in way too hot at one point. That was the first 20 laps, I believe, and that was the exact same result. But a status check on Brandon Walter here, able to roll off pit road in the 10th place position.
Looks like, yeah, he's coming out 10th now after all this, as we got 13 cars on the lead lap. Looks like Jeffrey Ford is going to be the last one there, and Michael Knight is going to be 3 laps down. Looks like, unfortunately, Colton Lane's early disconnect is really hurting him bad. He's stuck in that 10 lap down spot.
Oh man, indeed. Yep, he was. At this point, he's been able to get 1 lap back. So hopefully he's able to get more laps back here before the race ends, because at this point we now have only 47 laps remaining, and at this point the gas is they're way good on gas at this point, so they have nothing to worry about in that aspect. So at this point it's all about the tire conservation if this thing does go green. But if we have some more cautions here later on, they most likely will pit in to take those tires to avoid the sideways action.
Taking a look here at the number the number 15 car of Kristen Swinson. He's in 2nd place there, and his car looks pretty clean. I'm not seeing any damage, not a whole lot of damage, so might have something in that AMSOIL car for us.
Are we looking at the same car?
Oh, and I just saw the back as you said that.
Yeah, the machine at the right side is quite beat up, but the left side has been untouched. Yep, the AMS Oil American Iracing Sunday Series machine has seen better days, but he has been able to maintain 2nd place for a very long time behind his teammate. And now Daniel Smallwood hasn't been able to stay with his teammate all race long tonight, and that's Craig Hawkins with the Old Schools Motorsports. There's a 2-man team. They've not been able to be together. And Hawkins here currently in the 6th place spot behind Kyle Souza. We are now 1 to green, double wide, going green.
Yeah, I think he caught me there, Sean. That right side does look pretty bad.
And now the pace car dips off this time around. Regan Jr. finds the pedal, and so does the 15 of Swenson. We are now green flag racing. Swenson slides in behind his teammate Jr. in 2nd place. 9 of O'Brien goes in way too hot, smacks the wall, gets sucked in. All speed momentum has been lost before it was built up. Off turn 2 though, he gets around. Oh, he was able to somehow get a run against Smallwood off turn 2.
Well, I tell you, old Richard Reagan's got to be watching all this behind him and just smiling. Boys just keep on battling back there.
And here at this point, we have Christian Swenson already locked into the chase, and so is Richard Regan Jr. Smallwood not yet trying to get himself locked in. Same with O'Brien. Oh, off the exit of turn number 4, though. Smallwood goes way sideways. Entering turn 1, the exact same thing, but is able to hang on to it. But then James O'Brien is getting closer, and so is 00 of Kyle Souza.
Not far behind the 00 is Paul Johnson, too. It looks like they're going too wide back behind him, further back in the pack.
Yep, 98 of Ian Lane against Craig Hawkins and Robertson. Oh, Ian Lane pinched on the inside off the exit of turn 2. Both Hawkins and 3 of Robertson able to get a slingshot against him, but so far is hanging on for dear life. Yep, the inside is not a place you want to be pinned down in. And so far off turn 2, is able to secure that spot between Robertson and Walter. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with 142 laps complete and 39 laps left, we're going to take a final commercial break of the evening. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the JC Accounting and Payroll by Rory Collins and JC Accounting and Payroll, Round 7 of 13, Season number 9, Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMS Oil, specializing in synthetic lubricants for vehicles and equipment. So check them out at AMSOIL.com. They are the first in synthetics. And ladies and gentlemen, this is live on the Online Sim Racing Network. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight for round number 7 with PRL. Speaking of PRL, check them out at PrecisionRacingLeague.com. That's PrecisionRacingLeague.com. They have a lot to offer. Road racing, oval racing, and you guys would not want to miss it. So just check them out. But you have to race your way in for the oval series, because they take the best of the best and cap their fields at 36 drivers maximum. That's 36 drivers max, with team racing as well in there. So that's PrecisionRacingLeague.com. Well, going back to the race, we are under caution. We had a driver get sideways off the exit of one of these turns, and that was Daniel Smallwood, unfortunately. And a status check on Smallwood himself, he's currently in the 12th place spot, behind 33 of David Dreckman. Every single driver at this point has some kind of damage on these machines, and at this point we have 28 laps remaining in the race.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting now that everybody's caught back up. I mean, it's going to change the game plan now.
Well, I'll tell you, that old Craig Hawkins, number 23 there, sitting in the 6th position, boy, he just barely missed Smallville. He's probably going to need a new pair of whitey tighties there after the race.
As the pace car dips off this time around, and Regan still holding pace, he finds the pedal, and his teammate follows right behind 9 of James O'Brien. He is able to secure 3rd place for now. He goes wide on the outside of Swenson. Well, not wide enough. He gets a good run off the exit of turn 2 against Swenson. Yes, he does. Oh no!
Oh, he got in the wall hard.
Oh, that was a good run too, man.
Yeah, he did. That's just unfortunate.
And as we speak, Kyle Souza going against the 14 of Paul D. Johnson. And Souza there fell short of the exit of turn 4. But he in between 1 and 2 is trying to make up for lost time with some left front damage. That is new damage.
We currently see the 22 car of Reagan Jr. I mean, he just keeping it out front, man, and just trying to hold it together for another, what do we got here, 24 laps?
Yep, that's about right. 24 laps left here in the race. And, yep, Regan has the cleanest machine out there. The only machine without a scratch. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I'm not going to brag, but I called it, guys. He wins this race. I'm not going to shut up for a couple of weeks.
Ooh, Aki scanning the field a little bit more. 98 of Ian Lane has been keeping a low profile. As a result of that, too, his machine has not seen a single scratch just yet, and is currently in between Daniel Smallwood and Brandon Walter in the 8th place position.
Paul Johnson just proving he's not going to give up. He's not going to go away. He's coming through the adversity, and he's up there running 4th place, and looks like he's got a top 5 secured in this thing if nothing goes wrong.
It's amazing he's able to do that with that thing all beat up the way it is. It's not the prettiest looking car out there right now.
Seems like we're always saying that about Paul.
Has anybody suggested to him to changing his car number to 10?
Oh my god. As we speak, Paul Johnson still trailing his teammate James O'Brien, who is in turn trailing the 15 of Christian Swenson. And at this point here, we now have 21 laps to go. That's 21 laps remaining. He's ahead of Kyle Souza. So far, Paul's machine is doing quite well despite the damage. And for the most part, he's being able to keep those temps in check with some heavy, bad front damage.
Number 23 of Craig Hawkins, he's laying back there a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if Craig slips up in the top 5 here.
Yeah, Craig had a rough start to the evening, but has been on the move ever since, trying to take these names, trying to advance his spot the best he can, doing the old school motorsports extra proud, and so far staying very consistent with every single lap between Brandon Walter and Kyle Souza.
Yeah, I believe Kyle Souza is going to be our hard charger of the race here, isn't he?
Oh yeah, so far here he has moved up 11 spots. Oh, a driver spun out on the exit of turn 4, and that brought out the caution. We're going to back it up and see what happened.
Well, as we take a look at the caution, that's going to be the 99 of Brandon Walter and the 88 of Daniel Smallwood. Here, as we see what happened is Daniel Smallwood makes contact with the 99 of Brandon Walter. He's going to have some heavy damage. Brandon Walter's going to have a little bit of damage, but they keep it off the wall, but just enough to bring out a caution here with 16 laps to go.
Oh, Richard Reagan's got to be smiling, because he definitely seems to have the better car on the short run.
Oh man, yeah, this is going to shake things up indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, we just got some news here. Chris Perez, unfortunately, is gonna have to has to go. So hopefully he's able to get back, but I doubt it. This race is almost over, but it's been amazing. You there? You still there, Chris? I think he already left. Yeah, he had an emergency call come in, so he'll be back with us next week at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's Charlotte Motor Speedway. But it was amazing having him up here in the Online Sim Racing Network booth as a guest, the same as last week. But here, yeah, up front we have 64 of Michael Knight. Michael Knight gets the lucky dog and back to 1 lap down from 3 laps down where he was before. And that was very impressive by Michael Knight. So now at this point we have 15 laps remaining.
Currently showing James O'Brien on the number 1 spot. He says, guys, I'm not going away. I'm still here.
You know, right now, Johnny, I'm kind of having some doubts, because James O'Brien and Paul Johnson, the teammates and the only 2 drivers to stay out under this caution, and that gives them 16 laps more on their tires compared to the whole entire field. Johnny, if we don't have any more cautions after this, that's not good for them.
Oh no, it's according to how much the tire fall off on these cars are so great. The first I believe it's about 10 laps. Of course, I haven't done any testing at this track, but you know, if they can hold him off for about 10 laps, they might be able to do something here.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, we talked about it there early on. Yeah, catching drivers is one thing, but getting around them is. James O'Brien and Paul Johnson first and second place, and James O'Brien with the help of an opposing team, Richard Regan. On the outside we have Christian Swins and pace car dips off.
Slip the tires. Don't slip the tires. That's all you're thinking right now. Excellent restart. James O'Brien breaks out into the front. He is going to drive the all he's got. Like I said, I think they're just hoping. He's just hoping for a couple of more cautions.
Oh yeah, Paul Johnson here so far. He gets tapped by 15 of Swenson. He goes sideways and finished off by 88 of Daniel Smallwood. And the caution flies. Oh no. Gonna back it up and see what happened.
Well, as we take a look, we're going to focus on the 14 of Paul D. Johnson here. He gets a
And this
little
is where
bump.
I think we're going to see the gamble paid off of James O'Brien. He stayed out. He's expected this caution. We're going to go back. We're going to have a couple of laps. The caution comes out. O'Brien wins this race.
Well, as we go back here, look on the instant replay, we're going to focus the 14 of Paul D. Johnson. He got a little bit of a help there from the 15 and goes around. The 15 gets a bump. Smallwood involved. Craig Hawkins is involved. The 33 gets bumped by the 96. So a lot of cars got a little bit of damage, but this is definitely going to shake it up here coming in with just a few laps to go.
Oh man, yep, indeed, that is quite the turn of events, and Paul Johnson all the way in the 11th place spot now. I don't think he's gonna have enough time to make it work with a few laps here left. We now have 9 laps remaining, and just like Johnny had talked about there a couple of laps back, if James is hoping for a caution, if the caution comes out, that's exactly what he needs in order to keep these drivers behind him. Richard Regan, Swenson, Souza, Smallwood, Lane, Hawkins, Ford, Witherspoon, and Dreckman. They do have 16 laps less on their tires. And that does make a big difference when it comes down to racing. And so far, James O'Brien is still the leader. Richard Regan Jr. second, Swenson is third, Kyle Souza fourth, and Dennis Smallwood in the 5th place spot.
Oh, we got Ian Lane rounding out the top 6. Craig Hawkins, Jeffrey Ford, Josh Witherspoon, and look at old Dave Dreckman. He's up there from the he's running in the top 10, so that's going to be a good finish for David.
Oh yeah, speaking of Dreckman, yeah, at one point he was 1 lap down, was able to get the lap back. Actually, he was 2 laps down at one point and got both laps back. He had to make an unscheduled pit stop due to heavy damage on his machine, but now is really looking forward to advancing that spot. Currently 10th place in between Brandon Walter and Josh Witherspoon, and we should be coming to 1 to green the next time around with a 5-lap shootout, which means the next flag after the green flag ends the race.
Yeah, and old James is sitting there. He's hoping that the aggression that these guys just make a mistake. That's what he's looking for. Showing him with 26 laps on those set of tires. Richard Regan all the way down to the number 10th spot. It's got 10 laps on their tires.
And joining with as much pressure as James O'Brien has against him, and at the same time him having that many laps on his tires, he's more likely to spin those wheels on the restart, so he has to be more cautious than everybody else.
James, I don't know if I've ever seen that guy make a mistake on a restart, so he'll get the job done.
Yep, and off turn number 4, drag racing. Looks like he finds that pedal. He gets a great restart against Richard Regan, but Regan not too far back. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, a 5-lap shootout. Next flag ends the race. It is go time. 0% give, 100% take. It is go time. Oh!
And James' gamble pays off.
Oh man, the caution to end the race tonight. 99 of Brandon Walter spun out sideways. Let's see what happened.
Well, looks like he got some help. The 33 there of Dreckman. Looks like he got into the outside wall, and the outside wall spit him off, and unfortunately came right down into the 99 there of Walter, setting him around, bringing out the final caution of the, well, actually ending the race under yellow.
Oh man, well Johnny, James O'Brien gets lucky and he's able to have his first win right here at Lucas Oil Raceway and securing himself a spot in the chase.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just heard James on the radio. He was saying to the guys, he says, that's just not how I wanted to win the thing. And James is a true competitor, and I know how he feels. You want to win the thing honest, but hey, a win's a win, and he's going to take this one all the way to victory lane.
Oh, indeed, and congrats to James O'Brien having his first win. That was quite the turn of events. And 60 of Cotton Lane gets the waiver on the pace car. Is going to end tonight's race with 8 laps down from 11 laps down. So congrats to Cotton Lane for getting as many laps back as he possibly could after losing connection there early on in the race, putting him 11 laps down. We're going to end tonight's race with 13 drivers. Yes, 13 drivers on the lead lap. But next week, Johnny, a whole different track, a whole different beast. At the same time, a track that allows drivers to push it.
Where are we racing at next week there, Sean?
Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh, the All-Star race. Yeah, Charlotte produces the best racing that you'll see on iRacing. I know these guys are excited to be going there.
Absolutely, yeah, we see some of the best racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway, just like we did last season in the regular season, and also the All-Star race at the same time. So it's going to be interesting next week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, round 8 of 13 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Tonight's race did claim a lot of drivers, a lot of drivers coming out of this unhappy, a lot of damaged machines, mostly all damaged machines, with the except for Richard Regan Jr., and I do believe Ian Lane as well. Yes, correct? Ian Lane. Richard Regan Jr. coming out of this race without a single scratch on those machines, making their teams extra proud.
Yeah, we might have to wrecker a couple of these cars to victory lane.
And this is now the white flag. And James O'Brien turns number 3, turn number 4 for the final time this evening. Gonna bring this thing home unchallenged at pace speed 50 miles an hour. Second place driver Richard Regan Jr., Kyle Souza 3rd, Christian Swenson 4th, Daniel Smallwood 5th, Ian Lane 6th, Jeffrey Ford 7th, Craig Hawkins 8th, Josh Witherspoon 9th, and David Drackman rounding up the top 10. And ladies and gentlemen, top 3 interviews coming up. James O'Brien, Richard Regan Jr., and Kyle Souza, all different race teams. I'm gonna follow James O'Brien here for a smoke show. We do have the top 3 drivers up here in the booth, ladies and gentlemen. James O'Brien, Richard Regan Jr., and Kyle Souza, as we watch James O'Brien trying to devour the machine. Oh, yep, burn it down. You earned it. Burn it down. Blind us. Oh, man. You got a cup there, James?
Oh, there we go. Right button there.
How you doing tonight, man?
Oh, tired. Didn't think I had that one at all.
Oh, James, tonight you had a heck of a race, man. You were the fastest driver in practice, qualifying on the pole like you talked about right there, and having some action going on your part all race long tonight. You did get beat up a lot by other opponents and the wall a couple of times. How were you able to be successful tonight?
Do or die pit strategy there. If I didn't stay out, I wouldn't have won. I didn't expect for 2 cautions to come out. I expected to have to try for 11 laps, but unfortunately 2 more cautions. I don't like to win that way, but I mean, this is just, sometimes you got to play your cards that way and just bank on it.
Absolutely. And what was your game plan if the caution had not come out? What was your best? Basically, yourself and your teammate, Paul Johnson, had 16 laps more on your tires compared to everybody else behind you, the whole entire field. So do you feel like if the caution had not come out, you would have been able to hold off the Hungry Lions behind you?
Probably not. I would have hoped that I could have, but I would have just tried to run 11 qualifying laps, honestly. That was my plan. I mean, I went into the first lap doing that, and I pulled away a little bit. I knew they were going to run 3 or 4 tenths faster than me every lap, so it was just a matter of time before they got me.
Oh, copy that. Well, you're able to work with that despite everything being against you. Great job on your success tonight, getting yourself locked into the chase. Your first win. Congrats doing the road trip racing. Extra proud. And we look forward to seeing you again next week at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round number 8. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I want to thank Area 51 Chassis Design and Setup Genius. Him and Area 51, they gave me this setup, and I don't like this track too much, and I tweaked on it during the day, and I handed it back to them, and that thing was a long run rocket, and I couldn't have done it without them. And yeah, and then you guys for still broadcasting for us, and I hope Johnny and Chris up there had fun watching, and thank Amsoil for hopping on as a sponsor with Gen X over there. So they're my competitors, but I still want to treat them right, you know.
Absolutely. Well, congrats on the success. Your first win of the season, and a lot more wins to come. We look forward to seeing you on the exact same spot, the exact same momentum, the exact same mindset next week at Charlotte. Go celebrate, you earned it. See you next week.
See you later, Sean.
That was road trip racing driver and defending champion, 3-time champion here with PRL, James O'Brien. But next is Richard Regan Jr., and I do believe Johnny was able to get a hold of him.
You got a copy there, Richard?
Yep, loud and clear.
Oh, man, I know you didn't want to see it end that way. It seemed like you had the car on the short run all race long.
Yeah, a little disappointed with the 2 cautions there at the end, but, you know, congratulations to James on getting the win. He drove his butt off there. You know, in practice, so we had 2 different setups today, and we were all debating on which one to run. And last minute, I changed setups on what I was going to run, and kind of wish I didn't do that, because on the long run, I was about 2 tenths quicker than James. And, yeah, I don't know. Good win for him, though. I wish those 2 cautions didn't come out at the end. Yeah.
What do you feel like you struggled with most during the race? Was your car getting tight on you, or were you getting loose throughout the run? What were your biggest challenges setup-wise?
Definitely the center. The car just felt really bouncy in the center, just go right up to the wall, no drive center off. So that's what we were struggling with all night. Got it down a little bit, just not enough. I really wish that I stuck with my gut there and raced the setup I was doing in practice. But, you know, everyone makes mistakes sometimes, and this is only one race.
Absolutely, man. That's the attitude to have. I'm taking it you're not going to share with us what the difference was on those 2 setups, huh?
No.
I knew you. I don't blame you a bit, Richard. Well, man, congratulations on that number 2 finish. You know, it's unfortunate it didn't work out for you, but hey, you're good showing, and I mean that definitely ought to do you well going into the championship run there into the chase. Man, we're glad you were here with us tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting the race. Amzo for coming on board. Again, I'd like to congratulate James O'Brien for winning. He drove his butt off. This race was up and down for all of Gen X. It sucks that most of us got taken out early due to engine issues and stuff, and then Christian had a lot of damage, and he was doing really good blocking for me there for a long time, but pit strategy just didn't work out with us. But I'd like to thank everybody at Gen X Racing for all the time they put on these setups, and just everybody that's involved with Gen X Racing.
All right, thank you there, Richard. All right, I'm going to throw it back over to Sean. He should be there with our hard charger of the race, Kyle Souza.
Oh, yep, Kyle Souza, rim riding, a racing driver. Get a cup there, Kyle.
I got you, man.
How you doing tonight?
I'm pretty happy with that. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, I can only imagine being the heaviest mover, the heaviest mover in tonight's race. A lot of spots gained, 13 spots gained overall, and you were able to keep your machine clean for more than half the race until you started pushing the crap out of it. How's your race tonight?
Well, I jumped in the session, just about 10 seconds left in qualifying, couldn't get a lap down. So, started back there in 16th, 17th, wherever it was, and I decided to take it easy for a few laps there, and then once I figured out the car was actually pretty good, I started to push harder, and we got lucky there with a few of those cautions. We were able to miss them, and the car was pretty good all night, really.
Oh, copy that. And also we noticed you guys did not have a chance to change up those race lines as the race progressed. What kind of changes did you find yourself making as the race progressed?
Well, luckily I only had practice in 105 track degree temps, and this place was 85 or so today, and my car was pretty loose on that bottom lane in the hot temps, and I didn't get to make many changes to it since I jumped in so late. So I was one of, I think, a few cars that could really grip that bottom of the groove and make up time on the first few laps after a restart. And I think that really helped, but that wall was really everyone's friend there towards the middle of the race.
Oh, copy that. Well, we're glad you were able to be successful despite you not be able to make those changes. You pretty much you adapting to the setup that you had all race long and finding the limits and what you can and cannot do. An amazing race. You're finishing 3rd place. This being your second top 5 this season. Next week, you looking forward to finishing 2 spots higher?
I'm hoping so. I already started some practice on there, and I'm hoping I can get more practice in this week and go out there and get a W in Charlotte for Memorial's Day.
Oh, copy that, brother. Well, congrats once again on your success with doing the rim riding racing. Extra proud. Any thoughts before I let you go?
I just want to say congrats to James. He's struggled this season so far, and it's a big win for him, and it's nice to see a different car than just a Gen X labeled one in victory lane this season.
Absolutely. And also, Kyle, you are doing amazing in points tonight. You did start 7th place in the point standings, and with your finish tonight you should be able to advance that. So we look forward to hearing from you again next week. Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll go celebrate, buddy. You earned it. See you again next week.
Thanks, dude. You guys have a great night.
That was rim riding racing driver Kyle Souza. So we had 3 different teams in the podium tonight. James O'Brien first win, Road Trip Racing. Richard Regan Jr. second driver, second team, Gen X Racing. And 3rd place driver rounding up the podium was Kyle Souza with the rim riding racing team. It was a heck of a race. I had beside me Johnny Pierce, one of our drivers here with PRL, including Chris Perez and David Everly himself. Well, any thoughts, Johnny? What was your favorite part about tonight's race?
You know, it's short track racing. I guess the favorite part about it is I heard most of these guys on the radio. They were saying, "Hey, my bad. You know, I'm sorry. I got up into you. I washed up into you," and it just continues to show that PRL they just really try to find the classiest drivers they can, and on a short track where tempers run high. Thought these guys did pretty good tonight, and they're ready to take this Amsoil Series, Sunday Night Series, on to Charlotte next week.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be a heck of a race like we talked about here tonight. This short track where it brings out the tempers in these drivers and a lot of beat-up machines at the end, only having 2 machines of the 19 that were clean without a scratch on them, and that was Richard Regan Jr., including, I forget the name of the driver. I believe that was... Okay, that's going to bother me the rest of the night. I need to figure out who that driver was.
Hey, hear you, Sean. There was so much action tonight. It was just hard to keep up. Of course, I'm a rookie, man. You know, I had a hard time keeping up with you guys. I think it was less stressful to try to race than it was to try to do this tonight.
Oh, trust me, man, you did great, and it's always a pleasure having you up here in the booth, and we look forward to working with you in the near future. And I figured out the drive, that was 98 of Ian Lane, so 2 drivers, Ian Lane and Richard Regan with the cleanest machines of 19 starting tonight's race. That was a heck of a race. And Dave, any thoughts?
Well, it's a good race, but the season's starting to tick down, so these drivers are looking to make up points any way they can. And it'll be interesting to see how it's definitely going to come out at the end of the season.
Absolutely. This was round 7 of 13, ladies and gentlemen. JC Accounting and Payroll by JC Accounting and Payroll and Rory Collins. Round 7 of 13, season number 9, Precision Racing League AMSOIL American Iracing Sunday Series, brought to you by AMSOIL. That's AMSOIL, specializing in synthetic lubricants. That's lubricants for vehicles and equipment, and they are the first in synthetics. Check them out at amsoil.com. And ladies and gentlemen, like we talked about a bunch of times, next week's race, round 8 of 13, Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's going to be a heck of a race, as these drivers all trying to go against the first place spot to get themselves locked into the chase via win. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly how things play out. So we had Chris Perez up here. Chris Perez had to leave early, but always a pleasure having him up here in the booth. We look forward to having him back again next week at Charlotte for round number 8. We had David Everly, myself, Sean Zulu, and Joni Pierce. Thanks for watching. Have a good night and a good week.
Let's go to the house.